The royal guard had been searching for 3 hours. "I've got you now!"
No way!
And Princess Lyren was in Cabin 7.
Cabin 7 of the HFY Halvern was, by every objective measure, the least impressive room on the ship. It was small, occupied by the ship's primary systems mechanic, and contained the specific kind of accumulated personal archaeology that develops when a person spends significant portions of their life in a small space and compensates through the acquisition of interesting objects. There were shelves. The shelves had things on them. The things on the shelves were diverse, odd, and, if you were a Aethori princess who had spent every hour of her life in environments calibrated for specific aesthetic consistency, genuinely fascinating. Lyren had originally stopped at the door of Cabin 7 because she had been walking past it at the moment the mechanic opened it from the inside, and the object she had briefly glimpsed on the shelf before the door closed had been an artifact she recognized as pre-Concordat Aethori, which should not have been in the possession of a human systems mechanic on a mid-range transit vessel, and the question of how it had gotten there seemed significantly more interesting than the state reception she had been walking away from when she passed the door. The mechanic's name was Cale Marin. He was 26 years old, had worked on the Halvern for 3 years, and had been in the middle of losing badly at solitaire when Lyren had knocked on his open door and asked about the artifact on his third shelf, which was a Aethori wind recording sphere from approximately 400 years prior, small and glowing faintly blue-green, and which Cale had acquired at a transit market 2 years ago because it made a sound he liked and he had not known what it was. She had explained what it was. He had been genuinely interested. She had been genuinely interested in someone being genuinely interested rather than performing interest because she was royalty. This had taken 40 minutes and produced a conversation about pre-Concordat trade routes, the acoustic properties of Aethori recording technology, and the specific cognitive experience of acquiring objects whose origins you find out about later. Then he had shown her the cards. Holographic playing cards were a human invention that had not been widely distributed to alien species at the Concordat civilian level, and the specific game Cale used them for, a variant of a card game he called 31, modified for what he described as more interesting odds, had rules that Lyren had processed in approximately 4 minutes and immediately understood as both logically elegant and strategically rich. She was, as it turned out, excellent at it. He was consistently losing. This was producing, in both of them, the kind of laughter that requires genuine surprise, the specific laughter of someone who is losing more thoroughly than they expected to someone who has just learned the game, and someone who is winning more thoroughly than they expected at a game they just learned, and neither of whom can quite believe the results they are producing. "That's impossible," Cale said, looking at his hand. "I've played this for 3 years. "You play predictably," Lyren said, taking the point. "You have a pattern. You always hold the high card when you have 2 of the same suit because you're estimating your opponent won't have 3 consecutive." She showed him her hand. "Which I did." "You've played 4 rounds," he said. "5, she said. "I won the second one. I thought that was luck." "It was a test," she said, "to confirm the pattern." He looked at her with the specific expression of someone recalibrating. "You're genuinely enjoying this," he said. "I am genuinely enjoying this," she agreed. The admission surprised her slightly, because genuine enjoyment was not a state she had found often in environments structured around her royal status, and this environment was about as far from that as the ship contained. "Your shelf is also very interesting." "My shelf," he said, looking at it, "is a collection of things I found interesting and had nowhere else to put." "That's what makes it interesting," she said. "It's yours. Not a curated presentation of someone's perception of what should be interesting." She looked at the wind recording sphere. "Everything in my quarters is chosen by the aesthetic division. It's beautiful. It doesn't tell me anything about the person in the room." Cale looked at his shelf. "I have a jar of preserved sand from 6 different planets," he said. "Tell me about all of them," she said. He was in the middle of the fourth planet, the one with the red sand that turned silver at certain temperatures, when the door opened behind Lyren and Lady Vessa appeared in it. Lady Vessa was the head of the Aethori Diplomatic Protection Detail, had been running a 3-hour search operation for the missing princess, and had, in that time, managed to notify the Diplomatic Security Division and trigger an emergency council session. She was, in the specific way of people who have been genuinely frightened and have just found the source of that fear sitting cross-legged on a mechanic's bunk playing holographic cards with 3 points ahead and laughing, simultaneously deeply relieved and deeply annoyed. Lyren looked at Lady Vessa in the doorway. At the expression on her face. At the small robot unit near her feet whose sensors had clearly been actively scanning the corridor. "Lady Vessa," she said. "Your Highness," Lady Vessa said, with a controlled tone of someone containing approximately 3 hours of accumulated anxiety into a very small space. "The council has convened." "I was unavailable for 3 hours," Lyren said. "This is unprecedented." "You did not notify the protection detail of your location," Lady Vessa said. "No," Lyren agreed. "I should have." She looked at Kale, who had gone very still in the way of a person who has realized the person beside him is significantly more prominent than the conversation suggested. Kale, the mechanic. He has an Aethori wind recording sphere on his third shelf, and he plays a card game called 31 with modified probability rules. She looked at Lady Vessa. "I will attend the council session. Can I have 5 minutes? Lady Vessa looked at Kale. "The cards. At the sphere on the shelf." "5 minutes," she said. She closed the door. Lyren looked at Kale. He looked at her. "You're the princess," he said. "Yes," she said. "I should have mentioned it." "The aesthetic division choosing your quarters," he said. "Yes," she said. "The wind recording sphere," he said. "You knew immediately."